In the summer of 2016, the town of Cape Doran, Maine, was bustling with tourists. Ice cream shops buzzed with families, and sailboats cut across the harbor like clockwork. It was a town built on quiet wealth and quiet people until the night of July 19th, when everything changed. At 2:47 a.m., a frantic 911 call came from the home of Eleanor Dawson, a well-known art gallery owner. Her voice trembled on the line. "There's blood on the stairs. I think something's happened to my daughter." Her daughter was Grace Dawson, 27 years old, recently returned to Cape Doran after 3 years living in New York. She had been back less than 2 months, helping her mother run the gallery while sorting out the next phase of her life. Friends described her as soft-spoken, artistic, and guarded someone who had come home with secrets. When police arrived, they found Grace in her bedroom, lying face down beside the bed. There was blood on the rug, more on the corner of the nightstand. She had suffered a massive blunt force trauma to the head. Her phone was missing. The bedroom window was open, screen removed, and there were faint muddy footprints on the floor. At first glance, it looked like a break-in. But nothing had been stolen. Not the laptop on her desk. Not the $4,000 painting on the wall. Not even her jewelry. Investigators quickly concluded this was no burglary. This was personal. The Dawson home was a restored colonial at the edge of town, surrounded by thick woods and an old garden wall. The front door had been locked. No signs of forced entry. Grace's mother had gone to bed at 10:30 p.m. and hadn't heard anything during the night. The last time she saw her daughter, Grace had been sitting on the porch swing with a glass of wine, writing in her notebook. That notebook was missing. Detectives canvassed the area. Neighbors reported nothing unusual except for one man, a local fisherman named Carl Higgins. He said he saw a red Honda Civic parked a block away from the Dawson home around midnight. He recognized the car because it had a large crack in the rear bumper and a faded sticker of a New York art school. That detail hit a nerve. The car matched the description of one owned by Jonas Bell, a 32-year-old Cape Doran native who had gone to high school with Grace. He'd moved to New York around the same time she did, then returned abruptly a year earlier. He worked odd jobs landscaping, deliveries, but mostly kept to himself. What made Jonas stand out wasn't just the car. It was the restraining order Grace had filed against him 7 months earlier in Brooklyn. The order claimed that Jonas had become increasingly aggressive, had followed her to work, left disturbing notes at her apartment door, and once tried to apologize by sending her a painting of her asleep, one she never posed for. He claimed it was from memory. The order had expired just 2 weeks before Grace moved back to Maine. Police brought Jonas in for questioning. He was polite, even cooperative, said he hadn't seen Grace in nearly a year. Claimed he was in Portland the night of her murder, visiting his cousin. But the cousin said otherwise. Jonas had called him yes, but never visited. When police searched Jonas's car, they found dirt and pine needles under the floor mats and what appeared to be dried blood on a rag in the trunk. DNA later confirmed it belonged to Grace Dawson. Worse still, his apartment revealed something deeply disturbing. In a locked desk drawer, they found pages of Grace's missing notebook covered in annotations, as if someone had been studying her thoughts. There were also dozens of photos of her, some taken through windows, others at grocery stores, on the beach, even inside the art gallery. He had been following her since she returned. But the final nail came when detectives searched Jonas's phone history the night of Grace's murder. He had used his GPS to navigate back roads around Cape Doran. At 2:06 a.m., his phone went dark for 41 minutes, just long enough for him to drive to the Dawson home, commit the murder, and disappear. Under mounting pressure, Jonas cracked. But he didn't confess in the way anyone expected. Instead, he spoke slowly, calmly, smiling at times. He said he hadn't murdered Grace, he had saved her. She forgot who she was. She got poisoned by the city, by lies, by people who didn't see her. I saw her. I remembered who she was before all that. I tried to help her remember. He claimed they were meant to be, that the restraining order was a cry for attention, that she would have understood everything if she had just given him more time. The jury took just 5 hours to return a guilty verdict. Jonas Bell was convicted of first-degree murder, stalking, and burglary, and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The trial became national news. Commentators fixated on the obsession, the failed legal protections, the delusions of control. But in Cape Doran, the story was quiet or grief-stricken. At the gallery, Eleanor Dawson replaced the front display with a single painting Grace had created 2 weeks before her death, a self-portrait in blue and gray, standing at the edge of a forest. With no visible path forward, after the trial, Eleanor established a foundation in Grace's name, focused on early intervention in stalking cases and mental health education. The gallery still operates, but she no longer sells artwork. Every piece on display now belongs to her daughter. To this day, no one is sure how Jonas got into the house that night. There was no sign of forced entry, and Eleanor insists all the doors were locked. Some believe he'd stolen a key long before and waited for the perfect moment. Others think he watched long enough to know the exact time to strike. One thing is certain, he had been planning it for months.